Welcome to episode 2 of Learn Your Ballot educational series. I'm your host, Precious Ajere, and I am accompanied by the phenomenal, amazing Dave Lewis.
Right on. Thank you, Precious. Welcome back to part 2 of our series. As you mentioned, Dave Lewis. I'm happy to be locking arms with Precious and so many other community leaders, activists in our organization called Community Action Collective. And we're a group of individuals that came together to address police reform in our communities. And part of restoring justice and addressing police reform is actually having policy changes and having real, true policy changes. And the way to do that is what we're doing now. One of the things we're focusing on, and that the change starts with you. The change starts with each one of us, and that's actually casting our votes. So I'm excited about this series. I'm excited about today, and I'm ready to get started.
Yes, and I know a lot of us tend to shed a lot of light on the presidential election, but we're here to really bring awareness on the local level, because that's where your vote really matters even more and carries even more weight on just who's influencing your day-to-day life. You know, when we talk about the judges, when we talk about the county officials, other government city officials, all those people play a role in how we show up in society. So definitely coming from a very nonpartisan perspective, we've done our research and just want to present what we have so far so that you can be able to go to the polls more well-informed.
Right. And as we stated before, as Precious stated, this is an educational series. So get your notes out, have your pens, your thumbs ready, and also download the app Ballotpedia. If you don't have a smartphone, you can always visit www.ballotpedia.org. It's very easy to use. It's a simple app that allows you to view the candidates. It allows you to view information on them. Some information is, there's a lot of information on the candidates. Some of them it's very little, but it allows you to do this, and you can actually save a sample ballot for yourself before you go to the polls. So Preston and I have shared on the previous episode that we both are guilty of just straight ticket voting.
Yeah.
Not knowing who's actually on the ballot, what they stand for, what community they impact, how they impact the community, what they've done. And so we have decided to no longer allow that to be the narrative for us. And we hope that you guys also follow us on this journey by educating yourself. Like we always say that an informed voter is a powerful voter.
Agreed. That's absolutely correct. And we wholeheartedly believe that you're going to gain a lot of insight tonight. That's going to allow you to be just more competent and being able to really feel like you know what you're talking about and you know who you're voting for. So we're doing our best to get this information out. And so we need your support in sharing this with your friends, your family, and your colleagues.
Exactly. The best things in life, they say, are free. And so this is good free information. And like we said earlier, some of the positions that we talk about, they're not so sexy. Like when you guys think about and you think about the different candidates, and you have to figure out what motivates you and stuff like that. And in doing our research, some of these topics actually are interesting, and they have a lot of things that affect us that are in this that we don't necessarily think about. So today we're going to dive in on some of the positions such as the railroad commissioner, county commissioner, and the county school board of trustees. Like all these things just sound like very important positions.
Yeah,
are well above all of our pay grade that kind of exist, and they actually do some powerful things and affect some powerful things in our community. So I'm excited to talk about this stuff today.
Yeah, and to be honest, Dave, I really had no clue that some of these positions even existed until we started doing this research. So definitely, so for each one of these positions, we're going to break down what their purpose is, their powers, the decisions they're in charge of making, as well as some insightful data that you can be able to use once again as you do your own due diligence and figuring out who you're going to vote for this election. So All right, railroad commissioner. What is the purpose and powers of the railroad commissioner?
Right. So before I dive into this beautiful, sexy position that you hear talked about so often, they sit right alongside the presidential election every year. So you guys hear about this much. I'm being very sarcastic, by the way.
Yeah.
Before I go into it, I'm gonna give y'all some historical context. So this is something I didn't know, but the Railroad Commission was established in 1891 to regulate the rail industry of the 1800s. And since that time, the commission has been given the responsibility for overseeing activities of many different industries now. So the Railroad
Right.
Commission's main task is to regulate oil and gas operations.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Society's definitely evolved, and Texas, I'd assume, the oil and gas industry is massive. I was reading this study from U of H that recently came out, and it said that Houston's economy is driven, 30% of Houston's economy is driven by the oil and gas industry. So
Yes,
that's even I'm sure it's even bigger on the state level too.
absolutely. Oil and gas is a very big market in our city, in our state, and even in our country. If you guys notice, a lot of the wars and some of the reasons we've gone to war has been because of oil. Like if you guys think about that and some of the messaging that we receive. So this state agency also regulates utilities, pipeline safety, safety for liquefied petroleum gas industry, and surface coal, uranium mining. And some of y'all probably thinking about what the heck is that?
I'm over here like, okay.
Despite its name, it's called the Railroad Commission. As of 2005, it no longer regulates railroads. So how ironic.
Right.
And guess who regulates railroads as of 2005? Precious, you want to take a stab at that?
Who would regulate the railroads? Well, it's a form of transportation. So I'm going to go with TxDOT.
You're right.
The Department of Transportation.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And which makes sense.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess because also, I guess that's just part of like society evolving. And so before, the only form of transportation was railroads. And so I can see how, oil and gas fuels almost everything that we use, from cars to our appliances to just machinery. So I can see how that's like grown over the years. Then another cool fun fact is that the Texas Railroad Commission is the oldest regulatory agency in Texas and one of the oldest in the US.
Right.
So that's pretty massive for us to be kind of like the premier state. So there's a lot of regulating going on. So who's in charge? Who's on the ballot right now for the railroad commissioner?
Absolutely. And some of these names, like you guys would probably just check straight Democrat. If you see a Democrat in this position, you're just going to check Democrat because just like, I know nothing about that. I don't know what you do. And I am guilty of that as well. I can sit here and say that because some of these positions I've been like, I don't know, this doesn't affect me. And it actually does. And it's important. And some of the things like in Precious and I doing our research on this, like I'll just kind of go over the candidates on the ballot, and you guys can go to Ballotpedia. You can go to the website if they have one and check them out. But the first person is Krista Castaneda. She's a Democrat. Just some interesting facts on her. She is an attorney. She's also an engineer. And she also, some of the fun facts on her website is that she does a lot of nonprofit and philanthropic work in encouraging women to go into politics. So that's some of her lifelong work. Then you have her opponent, who's James Wright. He's a Republican. He's a business owner. He's also connected to the oil and gas company. His company is one of those companies that works directly with the oil and gas company. And what's interesting also on this ballot, what I also want to continue to point out is that this is not a straight ticket ballot. Like Precious and I touched base on this stuff in the beginning. So you have all the different parties on here. So in this one, you also have the Green Party being represented, and it's by, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, but it's Katija Gruen, and she's representing the Green Party. And then you also have Matt Sterritt, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, or Matt Sterritt. He's representing the Libertarian Party. And he also is a business owner. He sells software to the oil and gas company. And so one of the things that you guys
So how does that work? I'm like, they're doing business in the industry that they're wanting to have a political position for.
And if you think about what the Railroad Commission does, is that they are over regulating the oil and gas industry. They're ensuring that the safety standards are being met. And then if you think about climate change, if you think about global warming, if you think about are these industries that have the ability to put out so much pollution into the universe and into the atmosphere, are we doing the necessary things? Are we electing the right people to ensure that these things are regulated? Is that important to you? If that is important to you, it's like this is really some of those people on the ballot that you want to look at. And two of those people, if you look at Mr. Wright and you also look at Matt Starrett, one's a Republican, one's a Libertarian, but these two currently work in that industry. So I can imagine, and don't quote me on this, this is just my own thought and opinion, but there is definitely going to be some kind of conflict of interest. And I guarantee you there's going to be some type of benefit if this person is a railroad commissioner that's regulating the oil and gas industry when you have a business that profits off of the same industry. So
Right.
these are the things that you got to think about when you're voting for these people. And these are things that I'm going to think about.
Right. I'm like, I got to do me a little bit more research before I finish completing my sample ballot.
Yes.
Okay. So next up, we have the county commissioner. So the county commissioner is responsible for the roads and the bridges, which is within their precinct, as well as makes all the policy making decisions. And so there's 4 commissioners that are elected. Then they have a quarter of each within the county's population. And so they serve alongside the county judge as well as within the commissioner's court. So now that was a lot of words. What exactly does that mean as the county commissioner? So we have like the formal definition of what they're responsible for. Roads, bridges, got that. But what are their like powers or responsibilities that they do in their day-to-day position?
Right. And Precious, also in doing our research and us also being involved in the work that we do in the community, like we understand that the commissioner's office focuses on more than just roads and bridges. Like, and that's what I think a lot of people think about. They have a lot of decision-making power in the county. They adopt the budget for the county. They also set the tax rate. So for your property taxes. So if you guys are concerned about your property taxes going up, you probably should go have a conversation with the commissioner. They're also approving the county's budget and what is being purchased. Like if you guys see things in the county and you're not happy with certain things that are being purchased in your community, in the county, that's the county commissioner. They also fill different vacancies and they appoint positions into different county offices as well. They set the salaries and the benefits for those people that they have elected to those positions. So you can see all these things on the county website. They also have authority to authorize different contracts for the county. So this is public information. So if you have questions about where the money is going to the county, who's getting the contracts? Is there specific companies continue to get these county contracts? Those are things that you got to take up with your commissioner.
Are they also the people that, because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are like wanting to get certified to get government contracts. And I know sometimes they put the clause in there where you have to work with like minority owned businesses. Would that be the person that puts in that policy, or is that like a separate thing depending on the agency?
That is something that the county commissioner can do. They can do at the county level. Yeah, they have the ability to implement policies from a county level and which is local. They have an ability to do that. And those are things that, again, like commissioner's court is weekly, where if you guys have questions and you have issues and you have concerns, you can take this commissioner's court just as well as you can with your city council members and take that over to the commissioners, and the commissioners vote on this. Another thing is that they work directly with the county judge on a lot of decisions that are made for Harris County as well.
So who's on the ballot for the county commissioner?
So there is no one contesting the incumbent. The incumbent is Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He's uncontested. He's been in this role since 2017. He was a U.S. Senator for, I want to say 25 years. Since
wow, I didn't know that.
1991, he was first elected as a U.S. Senator. And according to Ballot, Pete, no, this may be his website. I think it's his website, but it just kind of showed that he sponsored over 25 legislative bills. And one of them was banning smoking in public places. So you guys have an opportunity to go check him out. It's Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He's also on Ballotpedia. I'm not sure if he completed the survey, but I guess you wouldn't have to if no one is running against you.
Right.
But
his website was pretty informative, though. But yeah, just to be mindful, guys, everyone does not complete the survey on Ballotpedia, but for the candidates that do, it gives a lot of more information on like their values, like where they're really wanting to create community impact and social change. So definitely look for that when you're looking at their different profiles on Ballotpedia.
Right. Absolutely. I think we're moving on.
Oh, yeah. So, wow, this was a short segment. So the last one is the County School Board Trustees. This sounds very intimidating.
And Precious, before we get started, I know it sounds, these are not very sexy topics. They're not sexy positions that people think about, but they are very important. They're just as important as your mayor, just as important as your governor, because all these positions affect us in one way or the other. Precious, what was your experience like in school? Like, what was your experience like growing up, and what would be one thing that you would have changed or you would change today if you had an opportunity for one of these positions?
Okay, well, for preschool, I was in charter school, but I want to say from age 4 or 5, I've been in public school. So I actually have attended like 9 different schools.
Wow.
So I had went to like 4, 5 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and I also went to schools in different counties. And it was different experiences in like Harris County versus Fort Bend County. And so anything that I would change, I would probably say like so much has changed. So, I mean, I know I look like I'm probably in high school right now, but I graduated high school 2009, and it was before the internet. It was during the AIM days, you know, AOL. Some people not familiar with the dial-up, but yeah. So back then, I was a natural scholar, but I think that and I think students still have that today, but we still had a lot of that busy work. And so when it comes to the actual curriculum of what was learned, there was a lot of life skills that I feel like should have been applied, or even just from a financial literacy perspective. We weren't really taught about taxes or anything like that. So I know, just being an entrepreneur and a businesswoman now, and adulting all together, you know, you feel like you have to just erase everything you were told or not told, and really figure out life. And so I know part of that is like your family and your upbringing, but I've always had this continuous debate about the responsibilities of the public education system and what they're actually teaching the kids, because I mean, that's where we are 8 hours out the day. We're there more than we are at home. And so yeah, I don't know how involved the trustees are with the actual curriculum or the extracurricular activities that's available for kids, but I would want to explore and get creative in that space right now if I had the opportunity to.
Right. And those are all good points. And that's something I share the same sentiment. Like, I grew up very similar to you, Precious, and not really feeling like the public school did a fair job in educating me in a way that was beneficial to my learning style and to the way I learned. That our education system, and it's evolving, but not enough to address individuals and address kids and their needs and things like that. Because a lot of kids, especially where I grew up at, it's impossible to focus on school when you're probably having food insecurities or being affected by hunger. Some kids on the verge of homelessness, or your utilities are shut off. So there's all these things going on at home, and not saying that all of these things are the school's responsibility, but it is our government's responsibility to ensure that these things are not happening to our kids and things like that. So these roles are important. And then as we move on, like, I do want to get into the county school board of trustees. They are on election. They come up on election quite often. I think sometimes if we're not directly connected to these, they don't seem as important to us. Or if you don't have kids, they don't seem as important to you. But I want you to think about your own education. Think about one of the things you would change, or a couple of things that you would change about your education if you had an opportunity to sit in these roles. And so up next, that's what we're going to talk about. And I can just kind of run through really quick, like what, if someone has never been involved with the school board and like what their job is. And so they act to establish policies governing the operation of Harris County Department of Education. As a governmental body, it can take action only by majority vote at a legal call, a public meeting. And so they share responsibility with the state, but they're a connection to the local community. So most of the policy is a state policy, but there's also things that we can do on a state level to ensure that each district, each school, all the kids are getting the necessary tools that they need to be successful, making sure that the money is going into the right things in those schools. So that's really the power that the Board of Trustees has. And the idea is to have a local community-led structure to implement educational programs, again, that meets the community's needs.
Right. So they kind of bridge that gap between state
Right.
and local. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I know that's like, that's a lot actually, because if you think about the different districts and the different types of students and the different problems, like even with, COVID-19 happening right now and just the challenges that they're having. So I would assume the trustees are playing a role in the decision making of what's the future of education for these kids for the new normal. So,
right.
So I see on the ballot right now we have Erica Davis, or at large 5. She's a Democrat. She did complete the survey on Ballotpedia, so you can check that out. And I think you really like her website, that she did a really good job.
She did, and not saying anything again, like we're nonpartisan on this organization, but we do always want to highlight positive things and want to highlight people that take the time to complete these surveys. It's important.
Right.
And people that take the time to update their website and actually put out information on them. And if you go look at Erica Davis's website, she's not only endorsed by both sides, but she also seems like a pretty amazing person. Just somebody that you would want on the school board. And not to plug her, but she's someone. The other candidates, there's a Bob Wolf. He's Republican. He has no website, no media info. He's running against her. Like, there's nothing you can find on this man. There's also in at large 7, there's Andrea Duhan. She's Democrat. She's actually currently on the board, but she also has no website or anything. She didn't complete the survey online, so can't find her. And then she's got an incumbent who is also Mr. Don Summers. He's a Republican. He's sitting in that seat now, and there is no info on him. So again, like, I think these things that people don't deem important and necessary, I think you guys should, because these are our kids. This is our future. We have one of the largest counties in this country.
Yeah.
The largest in this state. Harris County is huge. And so these things matter to us. Who's sitting on the school board, who's making these decisions, who's being the intercessor between us and the state, and making sure that our schools and our kids are getting the things they need. The least they could do is update their website and give us some information on them. But again, this is a new day. We're educating ourselves, and we're hopefully getting this information to you guys as well. But this is some things to consider.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think the more that we demand the information, the more they'll know that we're actually listening and we're paying attention. I think we've been so blindsided this, over the past years or so, that they didn't feel there was a need because they got reelected without having to put in that extra effort. And so now we're kind of really putting some fire up under our officials, because we are the people that vote them in their seats.
Right.
So we have to remember that we carry the power.
Right. I agree. And before we wrap up, I just want to some news on HISD that we want to share at the end of this. And you guys can go see the full report, but this is on houstonpublicmedia.org. And the title states that TEA released a report stating that the state of special education in HISD is grave. And so again, that sounds like a clickbait title, but when you actually read it, I'd like to actually see the report. I hadn't had an opportunity to see it, but that also sheds light on some of the challenges that we continue to see faced in HISD, which I believe is a really, really good school district. It has a really, really good potential. But again, like, I think a lot of these challenges start at the top.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this stuff starts at the top. This starts with the Board of Trustees has an obligation to ensure that the right superintendent is in place in these positions. So again, like, if you don't have the right superintendent, you don't have the right leadership, you don't have the right people coming in. And this is not saying that we don't. But again, like, we continue to see HISD in the news and being positioned in a negative way. And most of our kids from our community are part of HISD. And so our kids deserve better. And so we are demanding better. So when we do get opportunities to get in front of these candidates, we are going to ask some hard questions, because this stuff does matter.
Agreed. And yeah, I'm definitely going to continue to do my research. So please create that sample ballot, get familiar with the names and the candidates that you are wanting to vote for, because there is no straight ticket voting. So you have to know who you want to vote for. So yeah, we're almost at the finish line. This is crazy. We're 3 weeks away. Jesus,
We're there.
be with us.
So we're there. So we're going to wrap up. I think that's it for this series. We're going to try to keep it short, straight to the point. Again, if you guys have questions, you guys can, again, follow us at Community Action Collective on Facebook. We are CAC Houston on Instagram and also on Twitter. In addition to that, make sure you guys download Ballotpedia. Make sure you guys go visit 411vote411.org. So BOTE411.org. That also narrows things down to your zip code, similar to Ballotpedia. But that's it. Until next time.
Yes, I'm excited for next week. We're getting into the Supreme Courts next week, and the Criminal Court of Appeals and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into that research. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please share this information. Please continue to educate yourself, so we can really show out and show up for this 2020 election.
Right on. And again, I am Dave Lewis and my phenomenal co-host.
Precious as you.
We will see y'all next time. Thank you.
Bye.